In Psalm 139, the last two verses, we read these words, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in thy way everlasting." Three strands of thought. First, the psalmist's petition, psalmist's request. His request is to search him, that he should be searched, and that his heart should be known, and his thoughts known. And second, the spirit in which this petition is made. And third, the purpose the psalmist has in mind in making this petition. And lead me in thy way everlasting. These portions then, in that order, the psalmist's petition, the spirit in which the petition is made, and the purpose the psalmist has in mind. First, the psalmist's petition. Deal with it negatively first. It is not one that would lead to an increase in God's knowledge of the psalmist. He already has a thorough knowledge of the psalmist. See that in the beginning of the psalm. "O Lord, thou hast me searched and known. Thou knowest my sitting down and rising up. Yea, all my thoughts afar to thee are known. Thou compassest my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. For there's not a word in my tongue. But lo, O Lord, thou knowest it altogether. Thou hast beset me behind and before. Laid thine hand upon me." Reference is also made in the early part of the psalm to the omnipresence of God. Even in space, he cannot hide from God. Remember when Russian Sputnik first passed into space, and Yuri Gagarin, the Russian cosmonaut, his voice was heard crackling over the airwaves, "I see no God up here." Sheer arrogance. That God was giving him breath and life at that time. The omnipresence of God extending to the oceans. The omnipresence of God extending to darkness. It's like light in the presence of God. The omnipresence, the omniscience of God, even in our mother's womb, as embryos, well known unto him. So it is not a case of God needing to have an increase of knowledge concerning us. The psalmist's petition is rather that the all-knowing God should reveal the psalmist to himself. And this is an appropriate petition for the believer to have, because there is much in the heart of the believer, in the motives of the heart, that are hidden from the believer himself. That heart is like an onion, and layer upon layer of sin within the motives of the heart that need to be unfolded to ourselves, and we need to cry to God to show us ourselves. You see that in Psalm 19. "Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults." So it's rather than a prayer that the Lord would show us ourselves. Now, secondly, the spirit in which this petition is made is made in the spirit of one who has been the object of the innumerable and gracious thoughts of God from all eternity. Verses 17 and 18. How precious also are thy thoughts, O gracious God, to me. If I should count them, they are more numerous than the grains of sand on the shore. It's made in the spirit, therefore, of one who sees the heinousness of his sin as against the God of all grace. God who has had these loving thoughts towards him from all eternity. The God who has covenanted and whom we know now has covenanted in Christ to do us nothing but good. And therefore the heinousness shown against thee only have I sinned. And therefore the petition is made in the spirit of one who hates that sin with a perfect hatred. Do not I hate them with a perfect hatred. He seeks the glory of God first and foremost. And then thirdly and finally, the purpose for which the psalmist desires the unfolding of himself to himself. And there it is in these words, lead me in thy ways everlasting. He's not making this petition as an end in itself. Far from it, that could only result in despair. He's making it, as we have been looking, in a sense of indebtedness to the grace of God. He desires to know Christ more fully. As the one who justifies, particularly as the one who sanctifies and ultimately glorifies. He realizes that he needs to know his need. He needs to bring his need as a sinner to the throne of grace in order that he might know more of the God of grace, that he might come to know more of the sweet mercy of God within that covenant of grace. And so there's the leading. He desires to be led in the way everlasting, to know Christ as the one who leads him in the path of cleansing and sanctification. Because we need that cleansing from the filth of sin that particularly attaches, as we've been saying, in the motives of the heart. And need to see these in order so that we would seek cleansing from them, so that we would seek cleansing from them, realizing that nothing unclean can enter into the glory of God. And we therefore are making the petition in a spirit of desiring to have the character that would befit us for the enjoyment of the house of any mansions, into which nothing unclean can enter. It's in that spirit that he makes the prayer. Lead me in thy ways everlasting. Make Christ precious to me as the sanctifier of my soul, and ultimately, therefore, as the glorifier of my body and soul in a glorious eternity. May the Lord bless to us these few thoughts.